Archaeologists have uncovered a rich record of early human occupation in Britain, revealing that the kingdom was home to repeated waves of ancient humans over hundreds of thousands of years. This long history includes some of the earliest known settlers in northern Europe and the arrival, disappearance and reappearance of the Neanderthals, colloquially referred to as Homo Britannicus. Among the most remarkable chapters in this story is that of the pre-Neanderthals in England and Wales, with evidence from sites such as Pembroke Cave in Wales, providing direct glimpses into their lives, including teeth and stone tools, and evidence of hybridization with Neanderthals and modern humans. Neanderthals, Homo neanderthalensis, first entered Britain around 400,000 years ago. They were highly skilled hunters and toolmakers who adapted to a wide range of climates. Yet they did not occupy Britain continuously. Long stretches of time passed when the lands were empty of humans, either because ice made them uninhabitable or rising seas made them inaccessible. Pontnewydd Cave in Denbighshire, North Wales, contains some of the most northwesterly Neanderthal remains ever found. Excavations there have revealed 17 teeth and a partial jaw from at least 5 individuals, including an 11-year-old boy. These remains date to about 230,000 years ago. The teeth display taurodontism with enlarged pulp cavities and short roots, a feature common in Neanderthals. Pontnewydd shows that during warm intervals, Neanderthals could occupy regions far from their Central European heartlands. They hunted animals such as deer and processed their kills using stone tools, exploiting both open grasslands and wooded valleys. With few caves in England, these Neanderthals likely constructed shelters from large stones and fallen trees. By about 180,000 years ago, a new glaciation forced humans from Britain. The climate deteriorated sharply, and ice sheets expanded. Britain remained unoccupied for tens of thousands of years. Even during the unusually warm interglacial around 130,000 years ago, which lasted about 15,000 years, and supported hippos, lions, elephants, hyenas and deer, there is no evidence for human presence. This absence may reflect the low population density of humans in northwest Europe at the time. Fossil evidence from Swanscombe in Kent shows that early Neanderthals were present about 400,000 years ago. These individuals lived during a warm phase of the Ice Age cycle, when the climate supported a wide variety of animals and plants. Neanderthals hunted large game, processed carcasses with finely made stone tools, and survived in an environment that would later be completely transformed by glacial ice. Swanscombe offers another crucial window into the lives of early Neanderthals in Britain, with remains dating to about 400,000 years ago. The site has yielded 3 fragments of a human skull belonging to a young woman, along with stone tools and faunal remains, placing her among the earliest Neanderthal populations in northwest Europe. The Swanscombe skull retains features transitional between early and later classic Neanderthals, illustrating the evolutionary changes taking place in Europe during the Middle Pleistocene. The associated tools, largely hand axes and flake implements, suggest a community adept at exploiting local flint resources and processing a range of animal prey. The landscape at the time was a rich floodplain along the Thames, teeming with game and bordered by wooded areas, an ideal setting for the highly mobile hunting bands who crossed from the continent during favourable climatic windows. Doggerland was a vast lowland plain that connected Britain to Europe during periods of lower sea level. Rivers, lakes and marshes made it a rich hunting ground. For Neanderthals, it may have been a core territory, with Britain itself as a seasonal extension. When ice sheets grew and sea levels fell, Doggerland expanded. When the climate warmed, melting ice raised the seas, shrinking the plain and sometimes cutting Britain off entirely. This shifting geography explains the intermittent nature of Neanderthal presence in the archaeological record. The site of Boxgrove in West Sussex preserves an extraordinary snapshot of life in Britain nearly 500,000 years ago, during a warm interglacial period when early Neanderthals hunted large game on open grasslands. Excavations have uncovered finely made flint hand axes, butchered animal bones, and even the tibia of an early Neanderthal, providing one of the most complete pictures of lower Paleolithic life in Europe. The animal remains, including horse bones bearing cut marks, show that these hunters worked cooperatively to kill and process large prey. The surrounding environment, reconstructed from sediments and fossil pollen, was a mosaic of open plains, patches of woodland and freshwater lakes, supporting herds of deer, bison, and wild cattle. Boxgrove's finds reveal a population of skilled toolmakers and hunters who could exploit Britain's rich resources during periods when the climate and geography made it accessible from continental Europe. Now, a new breakthrough is quietly unfolding in a shadowed cavern beneath the massive medieval walls of Pembroke Castle in Wales. Known as Wogan's Cavern, this limestone chamber has long been sealed undisturbed under layers of flowstone and medieval flooring. For decades it was assumed to be archaeologically exhausted or hopelessly disturbed by centuries of use as a storehouse and defensive feature. The site has got fantastic potential. It's the best prospect that we have got in providing fresh material that can help us find out how Neanderthals lived in Britain, say the researchers. Indeed, new excavations revealed something extraordinary: pockets of intact sediment sealed under ancient calcite, untouched since the Ice Age. In 2025, scientists announced they are working with those samples to extract traces of ancient hominin DNA directly from the soil itself. No bones were needed. The sediments may silently hold fragments of genetic material shed by long-gone occupants. Prior to recent work, next to nothing was known about the archaeology of Wogan Cavern. It has long been assumed that the cave was dug out, either during the medieval period when it formed part of the castle, or during the very poorly recorded Victorian antiquarian digs. The DNA could belong Neanderthals, who lived in the cave roughly 120,000 years ago, during a warm interglacial period when Britain was not the cold steppe we imagine, but a temperate land roamed by deer and horse. Until now, evidence for such early Neanderthals in Britain was patchy, based mostly on isolated tools and a handful of teeth and bones from other sites. The genetic evidence from Wogan's Cavern could offer a window into this vanished population. Genetic comparisons suggest that Welsh Neanderthals may have belonged to an older European lineage, predating the later Neanderthals who thrived across Ice Age Europe and interbred with incoming modern humans. If further sequencing confirms this, the find could fill a gap between the early Neanderthals and the classic, more derived Neanderthals who lived in Britain and France closer to the time modern humans arrived. The idea that a single cave, long overlooked beneath a castle, could yield genetic proof of early Neanderthal occupation shows just how radically new techniques are transforming the search for our ancestors. Sedimentary ancient DNA is proving to be a revolutionary tool, able to conjure lost humans from mere earth. For example, at a cave site in Spain, researchers have discovered that one group of Neanderthals, who had lived there for tens of thousands of years, was replaced by another genetically distinct group. Their discovery did not come from skeletons or skulls, but from microscopic traces of genetic material hidden in dirt, what scientists call dirty DNA. The breakthrough rewrites our understanding of Neanderthal population history. For a long time, the assumption had been that Neanderthals were relatively stable, persisting in their regions for millennia with continuity. Fossils were too rare to tell a clear story, and genetics, until recently, was confined to the luck of discovering preserved bone or tooth material. Galleria de las Estatuas offered neither. Only a single Neanderthal toe bone had been found in the cave, far too small and fragile to yield DNA without being destroyed entirely. By searching for human DNA in the dirt itself, scientists realized they could recover fragments of Neanderthal genomes from places where no usable bones existed. It was as though the cave floor itself had become a genetic archive, recording the invisible traces left by its occupants from their blood, hair, skin, and bodily fluids. With dirty DNA from sediments, the field has been catapulted into a new era. The dirty DNA revealed a story that bones alone never could. The older layers of sediment, dated to around 112,000 years ago, contained mitochondrial DNA closely related to the Neanderthal from Hohensteinstadel in Germany. This was one of the most basal lineages of Neanderthals, sitting deep on the mitochondrial tree and representing an older Western European population. These Neanderthals were part of a radiation that extended across Europe during the last interglacial, when the climate was warmer and oak and pine forests stretched over Spain and into Central Europe. By extracting meaning from the genetic noise of dirty DNA, scientists have opened a new chapter in the study of human origins. And in doing so, they have revealed that even Neanderthals were not immune to the great drama of replacement and renewal in which one people's story ended and another's began in the very same cave. We may find a similar scenario unfolded in Britain as well. The Clacton spear, also known as the Clacton spear point, is the tip of a wooden spear discovered at Clacton-on-Sea in Essex. Made from yew wood, it measures 15 inches in length and was originally about 1.5 inches in diameter, though it shrank and warped slightly after excavation before being stabilized. Dating to around 400,000 years ago, it is the oldest known worked wooden implement in the world. The carefully shaped point was probably made using a curved flint tool from the local Clactonian industry found at the same site, and reveals that Neanderthals were expert woodworkers with intimate arboreal knowledge. While some early scholars doubted whether humans of that time could make and use such weapons, later finds, such as the Schöningen spears in Germany, confirmed that early humans were capable hunters. The Clacton spear shows that Britain's early inhabitants were skilled in working with perishable materials as well as stone, and that wooden weapons and tools were an important but rarely preserved part of their technology. Woodworking at the level seen at Schöningen, Clacton and Boxgrove, balanced spears, carefully shaped shafts, requires not just skill, but hands that can withstand vibration, abrasion and cold while remaining precise. Indeed, wood use sits at the centre of this ecology, and these hominins had an advanced ecological knowledge. Their spears, balanced, aerodynamic, deliberately shaped, are the smoking gun. Woodworking at that level requires grip strength, fine motor control, endurance, and above all, selection. You do not get ideal spear wood by accident. Straight trunks grow on steep slopes, in thinner soils, in wind-stressed environments that produce long, resilient fibres. Harvesting such wood means moving into terrain modern humans would rarely venture. For Homo Britannicus, it was simply where the best materials lived. That calibration extended to strength. This was not gym strength or short-burst power. It was load-bearing, endurance strength, the ability to haul wood downhill, carry stone, drag carcasses, and still function the next day. Their upper limbs show exactly what you would expect from people who used wood constantly. Powerful grips, thick forearms, and shoulders conditioned for levering, thrusting, and impact. During this period, Britain was connected to Europe, and Neanderthals could follow herds of mammoth, woolly rhinoceros, horse, and reindeer into the region. They set up temporary hunting camps and also for obtaining flint for tools, returning year after year as conditions allowed from around 240,000 years ago until they disappeared. Seen this way, Middle Pleistocene Europe looks less like a marginal habitat and more like an arena. These humans trained themselves against the continent itself. They ranged wide for the best wood. They sought out the best stone. They hunted where prey was strongest. They walked barefoot across surfaces that would cripple modern feet. Their bodies were not buffered by technology. Technology extended bodies that were already extreme. The Neanderthals of Britain and Wales were not marginal wanderers on the edge of their range. They were skilled, adaptable people who repeatedly entered and re-entered a challenging landscape, surviving by ingenuity and cooperation. Sites such as Pontnewydd Cave preserve not only their tools and bones, but also the story of how climate, geography and human resilience interacted over hundreds of millennia. Later, Neanderthals, living under harsher climatic instability and increasing competition, may actually look softer by comparison, not weaker in an absolute sense, but more constrained. By the end, Neanderthals were operating in narrower ecological windows, with higher population stress and less room for reckless behaviour. Their ancestors, by contrast, lived in a Europe that was still opening itself, ecologically, geographically, vertically. These discoveries show that Britain's prehistory was shaped by dramatic climate shifts and changing sea levels. Sometimes the land was connected to continental Europe via a vast plain known today as Doggerland, allowing humans and animals to move freely across. Some anthropologists struggle here because they assume that such people were brittle, ecologically narrow, technologically limited, and easy to displace. But brittle populations do not hunt aggressive megafaunal beavers in wetlands, confront cave bears near mountain caves, or climb hills for resources. Brittle populations avoid those places. These people sought them out. This is profoundly incompatible with narratives that portray Neanderthals as fragile placeholders awaiting a cognitive revolution from elsewhere. You do not displace populations like this easily. You do not outcompete them with cleverness alone. If later Homo sapiens succeeded, it was not because they encountered timid scavengers. It was because they encountered apex hominins, already forged by Europe's hardest terrains and most violent prey, and eventually mixed with them. At other times, rising seas turned Britain into an island, cutting it off entirely. The climate alternated between warm interglacials, when hippos, lions and elephants roamed, and harsh glaciations, when ice sheets covered the north and tundra reached far south. Britain's first humans came and went in rhythm with these cycles. Thanks for watching.